Hey Siri, set the timer for 10 minutes.
And did you tell them you get 40 bucks for 10 minutes of just saying what you think?
That's pretty good.
Easy. Arguing with her is fun though.
So, Beth, do you believe that if you murder your neighbor and take all his stuff, it's wrong?
Yes.
Okay. Is it wrong if you hire Larkin to go kill your neighbor and take his stuff?
Yes.
Would it still be wrong if everyone in the shelter got together and voted that your neighbor should die and all his stuff should get taken? That would still be wrong, right?
Yes.
I agree. So, do you think that all laws are moral?
No.
Are there some laws that you feel like it would be morally justified for you to disobey?
Yes.
It's so hard. If, let's say, I refuse to pay an income tax, which, if you do that, then cops would, show up, whatever. Do you feel like if you were in charge, you're emperor for the day, do you feel like you would come to my door and throw me in a cage? Would you personally do it?
No.
If you were, are there any laws currently in existence that you don't believe should exist?
Yeah.
Do you think that you should be able to take all of the laws and kind of like line by line decide which ones that you follow and which ones you don't?
Say that one more time.
Do you feel like you should be able to decide which laws you follow and which ones you don't?
It's a hard question. Me personally, no.
Okay. So, what you're saying is you don't believe that you should have to, or you don't believe that you should get to make the rules on what laws you follow and which you don't.
It's a very hard question. You're talking about like what society.
Now I'm asking just about you personally. Do you personally feel like you should be able to choose on your conscience what laws to follow and which not to follow?
Sure, yes.
So, if you believe that for yourself, do you also believe that for me? That I should get to choose which laws to follow and which not to follow? So, do you think that everyone in this shelter should get to decide which laws are moral and which to follow and which not to follow?
Yeah. It's still a really hard question though, but yes.
Okay. And so what about everyone in the country? Should they be able to decide which laws to follow and which not to follow?
Yeah.
So, I don't know, I just feel like you're an anarchist.
You could rephrase it like, so, okay, so isn't that sort of the same thing as saying that at the end of the day, if it's between an external authority, like a law telling you what you have to do, and it's your conscience and what you think is the right thing to do, or you're saying that your conscience is the one that wins?
Yes.
Okay.
So if you and a guy with a badge and a gun both observe a lady's purse being stolen, is it morally right for you to tase that person? To tase her? Or to tase the person who took her purse?
To stop them?
To tase them?
Yeah.
You do think that's okay? That's morally sound. All right. Let's see. Do you believe it's okay for the government to force you to fund things that you're opposed to?
Say it one more time.
So I'll give you an example. Is it morally right for the government to force you to fund space in jails for people put in prison for cannabis use? Is it morally right for the government to force money out of your pocket to pay for that? So do you see that? Can you tell that your moral compass doesn't line up perfectly with what's legal? Do you see that yourself?
Yeah.
And you're saying if you had to choose your conscience versus what authority is telling you to do, you would choose your conscience.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know that makes you an anarchist?
She's like, I have to say it.
Smack. Don't be telling me.
I'm sorry.
Feel like, what am I walking into? So we're like, you don't need to prove anything, and we don't care what you think. We're not gonna judge you.
Right or wrong.
Just say what you think. Just let it out.
She tried to explain it to me yesterday, and she couldn't because she didn't want to give anything away.
Right.
Win.
Win.
So
Win. It's asking questions.
So if you believe your own judgment outranks the law, which you said it did, I think previously, correct?
I said it was very hard, but yes. It's a very...
They're just like saying it through gritted
there's
teeth.
there's
My
a
own judgment.
There's a very hard line that I'm trying to...
Okay.
that I'm wavering, but I guess, yes.
Can you
Yes, please.
do what you can to describe that line, like the uncomfortable part?
Because... What was the question again?
So you're saying that it's hard for you to say yes, but you think just barely your conscience outranks the law.
If I saw something go wrong, like the tase example for a sec, and I had a moral obligation to stop it, I would. But do I feel like there needs to be laws in place? Yeah. Now, do I agree with all of them? No. Do I feel like society's messed up? Yes. Do I feel like there's not a perfect place that you could describe in any part of the world right now? I'd say no. There's not any spot that has the ideals that everyone wants.
So do you think that...
So yeah, to answer your question, there's laws that I don't agree with, but am I going to follow them? Yes.
So then you say that the authority does outweigh your own
But
conscience.
have I paid taxes? No.
So do you...
Personally?
Okay. So if the law makes something right now that you believe is morally good, like, or morally neutral, like eating sugary cereal, someone used earlier. Like, let's say that becomes outlawed. You're not allowed to buy sugary cereals anymore. Does that now become morally bad? Does buying sugary cereals become morally bad because it's illegal?
No.
So then would you choose to go with your own conscience or with the authority?
I would choose my own conscience in that scenario.
Right. So I feel like what you're saying is that you feel that because you would choose your conscience over authority, and you would grant that to me also, I'd be allowed to choose my conscience over authority. It's kind of like you're saying that if everyone was choosing their conscience over authority, what authority does authority have?
Right. And there's just the individual. Is that what you're trying to say?
Aren't we kind of all choosing our own? Aren't we all kind of choosing our own belief system within this, right? Because I know you and I both partake in the marijuanas, and that's illegal in the state of Florida. But we both agree it's not morally wrong, or like we wouldn't we'd hide it and be ashamed or whatever, and we don't. We both tell Belle it's plant medicine. So what I'm saying is, are we the authorities because we're making that choice, or are we doing something immoral?
It's a really bad example, but because it is a plant, it is harmless. But I mean, I guess you're right. Yeah.
Can you see in other instances where the government has decided something that, throughout history? Okay, and I can't talk
10 minutes.
Oh, there it is.
There it is. Saved by the bell.
Your money. He's like, I'm done.
Thank you, sir.
That was awesome. Terrible.
No, it wasn't terrible.
You were like saying this is hard, but you were just asking questions just fine. I'm like, why is this hard for her? She's doing it.
I feel like I was doing a really bad job.
No, you were asking the questions like that. They're just the basic stuff. Like that's all it is. Just asking questions.
Thank
see what you think. Just to see what people think.
Thanks
I think people ahead of time we're like people are gonna feel like, what am I walking into? So we're like, you don't need to prove anything, and we don't care what you think. We're not gonna judge you.
Right or wrong.
Just say what you think. Just let it out.
She tried to explain it to me yesterday, and she couldn't because she didn't want to give anything away.
Right.
So then he's like, what the hell am I walking into here?
But it's all about finding the uncomfortable place, because everybody, there's a point at which they'd say, well, if authority says that, I'm going to disobey. That's wrong, and I'm going to do the right thing. And yet most of the time they think, well, the right thing to do is obey the law and go along with the rules. And that in-between point, like if you look at human history, that's been the vast majority of suffering and injustice, is people going along with the rules when they were evil.
Nazi Germany.
And most people have never bothered to think at what point, if it's something like, I smoke pot and get away with it, that's fine. But if it's something like, I'm funding murder, that's not so fine. And it's like way more injustice has happened as a result of people obeying authority and doing the wrong thing.
Yep.
Like they wait too long before they say, my conscience says I'm not doing this. And so they obey way too long and do.
They don't. They're like, oh, I don't know where the line is, because they really don't. Like when push comes to shove, they're like, all right, but I am ultimately afraid of not following authority.
Right.
So they
and
follow authority.
So it's supposed to be a mental exercise to have people look like, well, where would I draw that line? And it's going to be uncomfortable. And it's uncomfortable for everybody. Like
most people don't look there and they don't think about it in these terms, and they haven't, because it's like she was saying. It's like you just grow up hearing stuff and people talking a certain way, and it's just around you and it envelops you, and you just assume it, and you're just like, well, you can't literally think outside of that box because it's the whole world. So you can't imagine, you go, well, I can't imagine something that isn't this, so I don't know what would be. And they don't realize it all breaks down to the individual. And if every individual says, nobody else outranks my conscience, then there can't be a forced authority. You can't have a moral obligation to do something you think is immoral. Yeah. That's it. And if you realize that, it's like, okay, well, but most people don't.